Hi, welcome to the Parenting Bridge podcast. I'm Dr. Michelle Alden, a licensed professional counselor, parent coach, and family therapist, and I'm here to help you to build a bridge to your best family possible. I was thinking about, how you might be feeling. It's December 1st, and I don't know if you feel this way, but for me, it just feels like time is going really fast, and I can't believe it's December already. In our household, we have 3 birthdays also in December. One of them was today with one of my kids, and even though my kids are all adults, when December hits and it's really the crunch time for getting, birthday presents and Christmas presents and all of that, I start feeling a little bit stressed, even though I love this time of year. So I've been just thinking today a lot about, I wonder how stressed, that we're feeling as adults this time of year. And some people, it's not stress, it's anxiety, it's depression, and people really struggle. And so we might even be feeling frazzled. Maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we're waiting till, December 15th to feel that way, or the 23rd. But if we're feeling that, and I wonder how observant we are to what the kids are feeling, and especially when you have kids with special needs, kids that have trouble with their emotions, and if we're feeling that, are they picking that up from us, or do they carry their own stress that they're handling with that? So I was looking at some things today that talked about the signs that kids are stressed, and I thought this was kind of funny, and that you as parents of kids that with the needs that I know most of your kids have, you might find this kind of funny too, because here's some of the things that we can observe in kids that are stressed. Increased irritability and tantrums, incessant talking or obsessing about a certain thing that they want, or this event coming up, just obsessive thinking or talking about something. Hyper, more aggressive, higher levels of frustration. And what I was laughing about was it sounded like our kids on any given day, right? That we work with this irritability and tantrums, but and I would say that is true also with because the kids that I work with, the kids that you are parenting, typically do have high levels of anxiety and stress, and they don't handle their emotions very well on a good day. So that made a lot of sense that that's what you would be observing. But I think the thing that we're talking about too is just being aware that this time, usually it starts kind of from Halloween on, is that they are going to feel more stress, and they tend to be more anxious, and their fuse may be shorter, and ours may be too. So the other thing that I wanted to point out about signs of kids being stressed is just being aware, and this is true for all of us, that excitement and nervous are very, very similar, and it actually is the same chemicals in the brain and in our body that are kind of happening. So anxiety and excitement can really feel the same, and sometimes we can be anxious about being so excited too. So our kids could have a lot of emotions going on, and just being aware of that, I think, can be really, really helpful. So I wanted to have you think about that, and just realizing that it's increased. So even if things have been going a little bit better, just be aware that they're gonna need some help dealing with those emotions. And also that there's some traditional things that happen, I think, around the holidays that our kids may be counting on, but sometimes there's things that are out of their comfort zone too. And so just being aware of that, helping that we may need to help them manage those emotions even more than we normally do. And then just keeping in mind that both excitement and anxiety can kind of look the same and feel the same. So I want to move on to some tips that I want to share with you guys. And the first one is to really to be prepared. So this is December 1st. And so being prepared for this month and, what's coming up, and also just being aware that there's changes in the weather, when the weather's doing crazy things like storming and, getting cold and then getting warmer, that has effect on our kids. And then the excitement of things coming up. I don't know how teachers do these next few weeks, because I think that it's just a crazy time. But there's also extra things that we add in this time. There's Christmas parties. There's maybe more family, friends, gatherings. The kind of food and sugar that's available this time of year, and just the out of the blue kind of things that happen. And we may, be rushing around trying to get things done too, and where our kids may have extra appointments, things like that. So being prepared, looking at what your month is going to look like and what things you have to do, I think can really help. And then when you are going to do an activity or go to something, being as prepared as possible. And that can be like about the food. It can be about, who's going to be at the activity, what the setup is, knowing as much as you can ahead of time. So laying and being able to, I call it kind of set the expectations of what's going to happen. And it's not that you can necessarily know everything that's going to happen in an event, but if you have a good idea, telling your children, like, we're going to go to this Christmas party, here's, there's going to be, this many people or whatever. The other thing too about food that I think is really interesting is a lot of times we don't think about this because we know there's going to be food at an event, but a lot of kids that I work with are very picky eaters. And so you may be going to these events where there's a lot of food, but your kids may not be eating anything really of substance. Maybe they just had some cheese and crackers. So you may want to think about feeding them something normal that they would normally eat before you go. And then that way, if they just kind of snack when they're there, that's fine. Or if they don't eat at all, because sometimes if they're really excited or anxious or running around with other kids, they might not eat anything. And then also just maybe even bringing, at least one thing to just have in your, on hand in case there's really nothing that they're going to eat except for, candy. And so just kind of try to keep them stabilized. And also just putting a limit on the sugar. It's really difficult to, have your kids be around all of this and that they can't have any of it. I understand that. But if you're going to, a Christmas party at night, or you're going someplace where there's going to be sugar and that kind of stuff, then, how can you kind of limit that where it's not, maybe can they have one thing? Can they take some of it? And you can say, you can take it if you can, if we can have it later. I don't know, but how you want to handle that. But, and the other thing is if you decide you're not going to handle it and that they're going to just have whatever's available, just be prepared for that, right? Like it's okay to know that you're not going to be able to control everything that's going to happen. I think that we just have to be realistic as parents, dealing with the kids, that it's not, there's going to be some payoff, right? Like we're going to pay now or pay later, and you might be paying later. And so it's just going to be a little more, it's going to be rough, right? It could be because they're eating this junk. It could be because they're not eating. It could be because they're not sleeping, and it could just be all of the above. So just being aware. And another part of being prepared is, I really think it's important to, especially during the holidays, like right now you have your schedule, they're still going to school, but if there's something extra, I would have it on the schedule if you're already familiar with using a schedule, or put it on your calendar, let the kids know, like today after school, we're going to go do such and such, or, and this is, how we're going to do it and how long we're going to take. Try to keep the routine as much as possible. And so then when the kids are out of school during those during the actual break time, I really recommend keeping a routine and schedule as much as possible. It can be a different routine than you have with school. It just needs to be thought out of how you're going to do it. I think that it's really important on the days when you are home to have things scheduled. Again, it doesn't have to be tight as it is like in your normal morning, but I think with our kids and just how off they can get, and when they get off, can be such a big deal. To just kind of keep some sanity, I would try to keep a schedule and just at least have an idea of what you're going to do that day and how you're going to do it. Even if you're going to go run errands, like be pretty clear about, we're going to run these 3 errands, and then you may have to really limit yourself. You might not be able to run all of the errands that you wanted to run. But one thing that I think that happens a lot is we get sidetracked, right? Like we're going to do these 3 things, but oh wait, I'm going to also stop here, and I'm going to also go do this, and but this is right on our way. And if you do that, you might have to give up something else that you were going to do for the sake of the kids that are with you on that, because I think that we just forget that we're kind of piling it on. And so just kind of being aware of that and keeping some sort of structure even when you're out doing things. The other piece of that is I think that it's okay sometimes to have to limit what you're going to be able to do with your kids and how many things you're going to be able to go to, and where you can kind of where you can say no, or if somebody is having a big meltdown right before you're going to go do something, and that they've been ramping up all day and that it's going to be a big meltdown once they get there. If you have to decide that one person's going to go and one person's going to stay home, the child that's having the hard time, that's sometimes a decision that you have to make. Or you go into it knowing like if they can't handle it, if we get overwhelmed, if it's too much or it gets too wild, too crazy, because sometimes you won't know until you start to get ready to leave, and then your kids are so ramped up they can't even safely ride in the car on the way home, that you may have to leave early, or you may have to take a break, even during it. I encourage parents a lot to, like, if you're, visiting family or away and there's a lot of activity and kids are playing with cousins or other people, and even if it seems all positive, to go ahead and have some time where you kind of pull away and just spend some time getting that child calm and regulated. Take a break. I have some families that we really worked hard on just not actually staying with family, but staying in a motel so that they could take that break. Otherwise, after so many hours of fun and play and rambunctiousness, somebody was going to lose their mind. It could be the kid, it could be the mom, So I also encourage you to just really pay attention to what's going on with your kids, even if they're in a big group and it seems like they're playing. Your kids, and how much they struggle in getting along, or where they do well and where they don't do well. And so in a situation where they're now, let's say they don't play very well with peers, and that it always ends up with them crying or somebody else crying, just really pay attention to what's going on in the play. I think it's difficult when you have a bunch of adults together and then the kids are playing. But if you know that it's your kid that's always going to be the one that maybe doesn't even start it, but comes back and says, somebody hit me, or, whatever, just pay attention to what's going on. Don't just leave up to chance, because what's going to happen. Usually the things that happen are things that have happened before. So just be aware of where they are. Notice when they need to take a break. Notice when they're getting louder or more hyper and they need to stop for a minute. Whatever you need to do to keep it safe, I think that it's really important to be aware. I don't want them to have to just, stay by you, but it's okay to pull them away from the group, before something happens. Just say, even if they're like, why, what, I wasn't doing anything, we're just having fun. It's like, I know, and you can have fun, but you're just going to sit with me for 5 minutes, and I'm going to set the timer. So I just want you to take a 5-minute break, give them that breather, and then, once they do a good job, it'll take them more than 5 minutes, because you can't, you have to wait until they kind of settle down. Give them the 5-minute timer, and then be, once the timer goes off, just like, good job. They can go back and playing, and you can do that even, intervene early is what I'm saying. Don't wait until something happens. Thanks for listening to the Parenting Bridge podcast. For more about parenting and how to get started building a bridge to better behaviors, go to the show notes and click on the link to Healthy Foundations. If you would like to leave a comment or have questions for Dr. Michelle, there's a link in the show notes to do so. Thank you.